Hi, my name is Coleman Parkerson. This is Project 2 Rocket Fuel by myself. So the question is Rocket Fuel's ad campaign worth the investment? Tascabella Incorporated is a woman's luxury accessory designer. They're trying to launch a new handbag. Now this handbag, they're trying to get the ads through a ad campaign company called Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel, despite the name, is a new innovative digital ad marketer that uses really innovative and a lot of data to really get their ads out there and also get some really good data back so they can show to their clients just how good they are at their job. For what they've done for this is they've taken 5,900 people, or the data of those 590,000 people, and they have taken 4% of them as a control group. The control group will be shown a PSA instead of the ad, while the other 96% will be known as the treated group. They will see the ad, and we're going to observe their buying behavior to see if they do the proper conversions. Conversions being showing the purchase behavior we're looking for in a positive way, which is to get the product after seeing said ad. Or in this case, also the controlled group. So we're going to take a look at that data and see just how effective they are. Some ways of doing this is looking at their return on investment, the conversion rates, and the chi-square test. So we have used Excel's methods of calculating the chi-square test, in which we have looked at the differences of the evaluated values by the expected values. So this is what we should see versus what we evaluate with the hypothesis that the numbers should be relatively the same. If they're truly different and the ads are really having an impact on the chi-square test, we will see a p-value of below 0.05. This is a critical value in which we now know that there is an absolute correlation between seeing the ad and your purchasing behavior being what you want to see. And what we actually see is not that. We see a p-value of 1.7, which is much higher than 0.05, and therefore we fail to reject this hypothesis. Therefore, the difference is not significant. That does not mean that there is not a correlation at all. And in fact, I think of the correlation we'll see, I will not only be able to prove that there is a difference being made, it is actually quite profitable. It is just not enough to register on the chi-square test. So it's not a massive difference, but there is a difference, and I'll show you that here. We can see this in our return on investment. Is it worth the risk? Absolutely. There is a return on investment of 32%. This means for every dollar you put in at least the marginal revenue of advertising, you can see $1.32 back. And the reason why I said that is because that's the actual name we have used here to see the actual money we have or the revenue we've received before the costs were calculated. And all the math here is done here. We can see a lift rate of 0.77. That might not seem great, but the lift is the difference between a controlled and non-controlled. It's what we actually see being the average difference between the purchasing behavior of ones who have seen the PSA versus the ad. And looking at that going forward, we are also looking at the cost of knowing. So of that control group, 4% of that 590,000 was the control group. There is an opportunity cost to this. The opportunity cost is for every person who saw the PSA, they did not see the ad. The lift was not applied to them, and so they were at that regime, I believe, closer to about 1.79% conversion rate. That is much lower to the 2.55 we were seeing with those who had seen it. And that actually can be calculated as a loss of $7,238. We can do this by taking the group size, that is 23,524 people. And by looking at the difference, this is the, because some of the people in that group did buy, but it's the difference between what we expected from someone who doesn't, or I should say observed from someone who doesn't and someone who does. This comes out to being roughly 158 people who would have bought, or at least projected to have bought, that did not. At $40 a person, that gives us our total. When you look at the total revenue at $173,000, it's, I think, worth it. It is worth to know that what you are investing in does have a positive payout, and the funds are not going to something that could be seen as parasitical and draining your money. Going forward here, we see the conversion rates by total impressions. Impressions are being users who have interacted, observed, noticed media that had to do with your advertising in this case. So we can look at the conversion rate, or the people who actually bought after seeing, by those treated who saw the ad versus controlled. And we can see not only do we have a much more smoother slope here, it is much more controlled, less variable. It's not as rigid, and there's much more, especially in this early game, where we see a massive increase. This chart goes out to 18, this one's at 20. This one had its maximum around the 145, this one 120. So especially in this earlier state, we're getting more conversion earlier and having our peak earlier as well. So we have a much more calculated conversion rate here that is coming sooner. Looking at through the days, we can see that the early days and early hours are the ones most affected, while in overall, by the days those are our big buyers, we can see this steady kind of U slope that is not really seen here. And it's not so much at day 4, I think this would be Thursday in its calculation, is staying stagnant, more that everything else around it is changing. Especially Monday, Tuesday, and right here every Saturday. When you see the ads, these days are big money days for you because you're seeing such an increase. This chart's out of 3, this is out of 4. There's a massive increase when you see the ad on these days here, with 4, I suppose, being the closest or little change, so you know where not to put the effort. Same thing goes here. Earlier game here, absolutely more money here. More conversion rate, I mean. And especially we get that peak sooner and quicker. Overall shape is almost reserved, but it's really filling those gaps and making the cost of everything much more consistent. The conversions are much more consistent and actually having an improvement when you see the ads. In conclusion, Rocket Fuel has proven to be the incredible ad management resource company that it supposes to be. With a 30% return, it's awesome. Even if the chi-square isn't exactly what we're looking for, it doesn't really matter when you look at the fact that these ads are working, has a great return, and Tascabella should be satisfied with the Rocket Fuel's results. Thank you.